Okay, so today we're going to create a landscape of different shades of trees. Okay, so it's going to be a landscape that shows what's called atmospheric perspective, which means that the things in far away in the background are going to be very, very light and kind of out of focus because they're farther away. And then as things get closer to us, they become darker and have more detail to them. And so the way you're going to start this is by drawing sort of three lines. I'm going to start about in the middle of the paper. Notice the paper is horizontal. And I'm going to go about right here in the middle and just kind of make a sort of a wavy line. Again, do not need a ruler for this. It's just a wavy line, kind of a hillside. And then I'm going to measure down about an inch. I'm going to create another sort of wavy line like that. All right. Again, these don't have to be perfectly parallel, right? Because this is nature, and so it wouldn't be perfect. And then the next one, a little bit further down, all the way down here. Maybe I'll make that one a bit smoother like that. Okay, so I've got these three areas. I'm going to start with the background trees. And when you draw your trees, remember that the trunks can go up and the branches can kind of go off of the paper for these background ones because they're going to be far, far away. I can have the trunks going up like this. Start with a trunk. Again, this is going to be in this section. Maybe I have some branches coming out like this. Okay, these branch out. Remember, the branches get smaller as they get farther away. Maybe this one sort of branches like that. Maybe there was another branch that came up like this. It's okay if I add to it and then just erase those lines to make those trunks. And another one coming up like this. And they can be overlapping next to each other, overlapping a little bit. Okay. And I'm just going to keep on adding these branches. And again, I'm going to erase this part of the line where it meets that line right there, that line that you made kind of toward the center of the paper. And then I'm going to use the side of my pencil. So I'm using the side of it to go in and shade this, okay? Not very dark. Notice I'm going very, very light. I'm going to shade it in. I'm going to keep going. So you're going to keep adding trees over here. Keep adding your trees over here and drawing them in. And again, erasing that. I'm going to very lightly, very, very lightly, using the side of the pencil, start to shade that in like this. I'm going to shade in that entire area, even this right down to that line that I made, and shade in that whole area with the trees and the area of the ground. So I'm going to end up with something like this. Okay? And so you'll see that I've shaded it in, and maybe I'm thinking it's a little bit dark. Maybe it's a little bit too dark for my background trees. And so what you can do is you can take this. It's called a kneaded eraser, a kneadable eraser. Can you see you can knead it? Just like bread dough. And so I can take this kneadable eraser and just go in and kind of pick up some of the pencil. I don't want to completely erase it. I'm just sort of picking up some of the tree area. And I'm just going to leave some of it darker, leave some of it lighter. It kind of creates a sort of light and shadow effect. And it also kind of blends the pencil part together. All right, just very, very lightly with the kneadable eraser. You can see that it picks up this pencil very, very well. Okay, a lot of painters use this, especially when you're working with charcoal. And I can just go in there. It creates a nice effect of light and dark. It already looks like light and shadows on there. Now I'm going to make the second layer. So the second layer is going to start from that other line that I made right here, the next layer of trees. And so I'm going to start here, and I'm going to just start drawing in some trees and the branches. Start drawing in these trunks. Maybe there's a branch that goes way over here. Drawing in these branches that get thinner as they go up. Maybe there's some small little branches that come out. Okay. Goes over here. Some other branches that come over here. Notice that I'm just drawing right over top of the other trees in the background. Okay? That's the great thing about starting off lighter, and then as the darker trees go on right over top of them. All right, and I'm going to draw another tree over here. This one has some branches like that coming out. Just drawing right over top of the other ones. Maybe this broken branch, another branch there. Maybe that one's lower to the ground. There's another branch that comes out here. Okay. Now with the second layer, I'm going to shade in from there all the way down to this line right here. And now I'm going to use my pencil. Again, I've got a number 2 pencil, and now I'm going to shade it. I'm not pressing down as hard as, to break the lead, but as you can see, I'm definitely making the second layer darker. So I'm going in. Notice how I'm moving the pencil and moving it like as if it's tree bark. That sort of texture from the pencil can give you texture in the drawing as well and add to some of the details in the drawing. So that as I'm moving around the tree, I'm sort of going the way that the tree would grow, right? And then down here on the ground, I'll go like this and do these lines more horizontal. So it's more like the ground, okay? So it's more horizontal. Maybe there's some rocks in there. We see a bit more detail as we go into this second layer. Again, this is sort of the medium tone. I can even go in and add some kind of grass shoots coming out here and there in that second layer just as details, okay? So what you're going to end up with is something like this, where we have that second layer. And now for the third, again, I'm going to draw out the trees first. So again, I'm starting here on that last one. I'm going to draw out, let's say over here. And again, now I'm pressing a bit harder so that I can see where these last trees will be. And I'm going to draw the limbs coming up this way, limbs going over this way, limbs coming out here. All right, some limbs coming up this way, going this way. I'm just sort of sketching them in first. All right, and they're going to connect to here. This is where they're connecting, right here. And maybe I'll do another tree over here. The branches will come out over here, and another tree over here. The branches coming out over here. That connect down here. And now when I shade this in, I can get one of these ebony pencils. This is going to go a lot darker than your regular number 2 pencil. So this would go to like number 6 or even number 8 as far as the darkness goes. So you can see that as I start to shade that in, it's even another layer darker than our number 2 pencil underneath. So we get another whole layer, and again, I'm just going right over top and layering over. Now, if you want to make these trees in the foreground even darker than that, let's say that you've got some areas that you want even darker, try experimenting with some of the pastel pencils. So there's different brands of pastel pencils. This is a black pastel here. There's also the 6B graphite crayons that I have that are like this, that just come in this shape. They call them a crayon because it's in that shape, but it's the same thing where you can use it to the side like this, or you can use it this way like that. Or we also have the compressed charcoal that looks like this, these squares of compressed charcoal. And you can see that if I put that in, that is quite dark, so that especially if I want to, I can get some nice texture there with that charcoal there and get a nice blackened in foreground, because the things in the foreground are going to be the darkest. All right, now the only thing is, if you do use the charcoal, just be careful about, because as you can see, it will smudge. You might want to use that to your advantage to kind of, you can go like this and kind of draw with your fingers with the charcoal But just remember that at the very end, we will need to take that outside and use some of this, a workable fixative, and just give it a very light spray at the very, very end so that the charcoal will no longer smear once you have sprayed it. And so your final outcome of that will be this layered drawing of showing value in a landscape. So again, you've got your dark, medium, and light. Remember, you're going to start with your light all the way in the background. You can blend that out, make it even lighter. Then you got that middle ground. You're going to draw that over top of the light, and then the darkest one, you're going to draw that over top, and that'll be your final layer. So we get this idea of depth, of going back into space by using atmospheric perspective. Okay, good luck.